2024 season is officially over. How do we feel about the Texans? Are they closer now than they were at this point last year? Plus some rumors going around. It's officially draft time, combine in 2 weeks. Let's talk about it live in the locker room. Let's eat.
Yeah.
Good live.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every.
That's a wrap. The 2024 season is officially done. It's been done for the Texans for a while, but it is officially wrapped up. The Kansas City Chiefs, they go down. They get beat down by the Philadelphia Eagles. And as we always do, we localize it. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. Normally, you can see me at 10:30. We're going to move it up to 10 just for a little bit. Because there will be no football game. So this is not going to interfere with your football watching. Maybe you have it on while you're watching some hoops or something, but typically the latest football game ends about 10:30. Don't want to be on the air during that, but during the offseason, we're just going to move it up a little bit, and we'll figure it out. Here is the biggest takeaways that I have from the 2024 season with the Philadelphia Eagles. Just in recent history, what I take away from what I saw yesterday with the Eagles, because naturally you're watching it, you're saying, okay, what can the Texans do? And I mean, obviously the Eagles have one of the best O-lines in the league. They have one of the best receiving duos in the league. They have the best running back in the league. They have best defense in the league. The first thing that I look at is they were able to make what was one of the worst defenses in the league last year one of the best defenses. And I think when you look at the Texans offense, no, it wasn't one of the worst. But it wasn't good. And it was a bottom half offense. If the Texans can do that, then I think they might be on the right track because they got a really, really good defense. Other thing the Eagles were able to do, they were able to pressure the quarterback without blitzing. Texans, they got the starting pieces for that, specifically on the edge. So you have that going for you. The other thing that I kind of started thinking about, and this is kind of long-term, and this is just kind of interesting when you look at the last, let's say 8 to 10 years of the Philadelphia Eagles. And Howie Roseman's been doing this for a while. You can kind of divide it into eras, the Andy Reid, and then the Doug Peterson, and now the Sirianni. But if you look at just the last 8-10 years, much like the Texans, exactly like the Texans, they drafted a quarterback in Carson Wentz, number 2 overall, just like CJ Stroud went number 2 overall. And he ended up starting out pretty hot, damn near MVP of the league 1 year, the year that Foles actually came in and relieved him, and ended up kind of flopping, and they had to figure something out. And along the way, they ended up drafting Jalen Hurts, and they've been able to overcome failing with drafting a quarterback number 2 overall. Now, I know when I say this, some of you may say, oh, God, you're hating on CJ Stroud. Here it goes. No, I'm not hating on CJ Stroud. All I'm saying is there's a valuable lesson to be learned from that, because I think when we look at the Texans and we talk about the Texans, we tend to just think, okay, it's all about the quarterback. And in the big scheme of things, it is. But the fact that the Eagles have been able to, why they had Carson Wentz, and he was playing at an MVP caliber level, still win a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback because of the roster they built around him. And then after that quarterback floundered, they were able to have such a good roster that they were able to win another championship with Jalen Hurts. I think that tells you that we can sit here and we can talk about depending on CJ, and this isn't even a CJ thing, but you got to build a complete roster. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Yesterday, he wasn't able to overcome the pressure that was brought by Philadelphia without even blitzing. And Stoots brought this up earlier today on SNL, which you can hear and listen to every day at 4 o'clock on all podcast platforms. The pressure rate that was just so godly that everybody keeps talking about, that was like the talk of national shows and post-game shows and everything, that pressure that Patrick Mahomes faced yesterday was percentage points away from what CJ Stroud averaged facing all season. So while the Texans might have CJ Stroud and he might be here, you got to build a roster that's up here no matter what. Because if it doesn't work out, then you don't really miss a beat. And if it does work out, you put him in the best position to succeed. But that's the second time now that we've watched Patrick Mahomes. And in Patrick Mahomes' 2 Super Bowl losses, he's lost by like a combined 40 points. And yesterday, like the score is not symbolic of how much of an assing that was. That was an absolute beatdown yesterday. And the 2 times that he's lost has been because his guys can't block. The 2 times that his offensive line was compromised against Tampa Bay and against Philadelphia yesterday was because it's just his offensive line just flat out couldn't block. And meanwhile, Philadelphia builds a complete roster. So I think that's kind of a lesson to learn from that game and really from the season. You got to put a complete whole team around a quarterback. And if they can't block, it's going to be a damn disaster. And that's what we saw yesterday. So props to the Eagles. They won me some money. That is for damn sure. BetUS. Shout out to BetUS. That was an absolute thumping. And there's something to be learned from it. And there's something to be learned from everything. Saquon Barkley, they contained him too, and they were still able to get it done. So there is that. Chase immediately says, Howie, don't pay guys like Shaq and Schultz either. Yeah, it's probably correct. Yeah, 10 o'clock, Mike, appreciate you. I'm starting at 10 just for a few months because 10:30 is so that there's no football on. There's no football on right now. So we're going to go 10 to 11 for a little bit. In season, we'll go 10:30. But yeah, we're starting at 10. Sorry for the people that are in the routine. Can't really fault y'all for coming through a little bit late. Let's look ahead with the combine 2 weeks away from today. Let's look ahead to who the Texans are chasing now as compared to last year and who they were chasing. Because I think the teams that you're chasing are pretty similar. Like you're still chasing Kansas City. I think they're going to look completely different. I could see Kansas City doing kind of a different version and maybe a less extreme version of what Philadelphia did this year, where I think that offense is going to be explosive next year. When they have Rice and they have Worthy and they have Mahomes, I think there's a chance that offense is going to be extremely explosive. Is it going to be the number 1 offense in the NFL? You never know. But I think they are going to completely reinvent themselves, much like we've seen them do a number of times during this stretch. So I think it looks a little bit different for Kansas City. You're still chasing them. You're still chasing the Baltimore Ravens. We agree on that. You beat the Bills, but you're still chasing the Bills. I think the teams that you're chasing are the exact same as far as being elite. I don't think the elite nature of the AFC had much of a shift this season. Now, I do think you have a little bit more company in that I think Denver is in your tier, and I think the Chargers, despite the fact you thumped them, they're in your tier. But the teams that you're chasing are pretty much the same. And you can say whatever you want about Pittsburgh. I don't think anyone takes them too serious. Cincinnati, it's going to be an interesting offseason for them. So I don't think the teams in the AFC have really changed as far as who you're chasing. I do think it's gotten a little bit more crowded when it comes to the tier that the Texans are in. So we'll see what that looks like. Then we got to ask this question. And I'm going to combine these two questions. But who is chasing you? Who is chasing the Texans? I think it's 2 teams right now in the division. I'm not counting the Titans. And by the way, there's rumors that the Titans might sign Aaron Rodgers. Wouldn't that be the most appropriate thing in the world? The team that has no identity, that cannot balance rebuilding with going all in. The Tennessee Titans, with the number 1 overall pick, decide that they're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers. It would be way too appropriate. They cannot make a decision. They cannot make a decision. You get rid of Mike Vrabel. Looks like you're rebuilding. Boom. You sign the two of the most overpriced free agents last offseason in Ridley and Snead. Then all of a sudden you're done with that process. You're bringing in a new GM. You get the number 1 overall pick. And now you're talking about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it would just be completely appropriate for the Titans to sign Aaron Rodgers. So I'm putting them at the bottom. I'm not even looking at what they got going. I'm putting them at the bottom. Trying to put this Lakers Jazz game on. I might try to get a little Bet US live wager on this, depending on what goes on. Who knows? But Indianapolis and Jacksonville, I think they're not far off from where the Texans are. I know a lot of people will roll their eyes and they'll say, are you kidding me? Like those guys can't hang. The Texans have won the last 2 divisions. Let's just put it this way. Jacksonville 2 years ago, it took a monumental meltdown for them to piss away the division to the Texans. If they would have just won 1 more game, then the Texans don't win the division. If the Indianapolis Colts would have caught just 1 pass, the 4th down pass, the Texans don't win the division. Indianapolis, despite the fact that they haven't won the division, they haven't been to the playoffs, and they have no quarterback at all. They missed on Anthony Richardson, a.k.a. LaFar Jackson. Despite that, you know how many more games the Texans have won in the regular season than the Indianapolis Colts without the quarterback? 3. So you're 3 games better than them right now with no quarterback situation. I don't know that quarterback situation gets much better. So they are kind of in no man's land, and their ceiling is capped off until they find the quarterback. They've been in that situation since they abruptly had to endure the retirement of Andrew Luck. But 3 games in 2 years, 1 drop pass from winning a division. Jacksonville, it's easy to look at Jacksonville and say, well, they were one of the worst teams in the league this year. Well, they got a new coach. Trevor Lawrence was hurt. And they're actually kind of lucky that they were really, really bad instead of just being in like that on that mediocre treadmill. Like they have a top 5 pick right now. They got Brian Thomas. They got a new coach. We don't know what this guy's going to be. Jacksonville could have easily won the division 2 years ago like Indianapolis. So the question I'm asking and the question I'm setting this up with is, do you think the Texans are closer to those elite teams that they're chasing? Question marks with all of them. Question marks with all of them. Buffalo, don't know what they're going to do this offseason. Chiefs, probably going to look a lot different. Pretty intriguing stuff at receiver. Baltimore, we've talked about. Do you think the Texans are closer to them, or do you think Indianapolis and Jacksonville is closer to the Texans? I think that's a fair question to ask. And I'm not even putting the Titans in the equation. But crazier things have happened. What do you think is closer? The gap between the Texans and the elite, or the gap between the other 2 teams in the AFC South and the Texans? I would say the gap between the Texans and the other 2 teams in the AFC South. The Texans can easily get to that level where they can play elite football. We haven't seen it yet. We don't know what this offensive system is going to look like. We don't know what this scheme is going to look like. But you got to think that the other 2 are going to improve. The Texans are going to have to figure it out. And I think it's going to have to start at wide receiver. I think it's going to start at wide receiver. I think Jerome's bringing up a good point. I think he's bringing up a good point, maybe in a different way. He says the Titans are one trade and the number one pick away from getting a lot of picks of maybe talent. That's fair. Or what if one of these quarterbacks that we're dismissing, me too, quarterbacks make idiots of us all, what if they end up being the next big thing? I don't think we anticipated that CJ Stroud's rookie season would immediately be kind of put in the rear view when it comes to all-time great rookie seasons. I don't know that, whether you like Jaden Daniels or not, did you think he was going to be the best rookie quarterback of all time the year after CJ Stroud? I mean, I wouldn't bet on it with the Tennessee Titans, but if that does happen, then that kind of changes stuff as well. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. Can barely say that with a straight face, but for the sake of conversation, that's brought up. I think that's a good point. But I think it's going to start with the offensive line. I think it's going to start with the wide receiver situation. And that's where the Texans are going to have to figure this out. They're going to have to become a balanced team. That's the other thing that we saw yesterday in the Super Bowl. Yesterday we saw Saquon Barkley kept in check and the Eagles were still able to get the job done. Complete effort. And that's the thing that we talked about with the Texans heading into the playoffs and kind of what we saw. They can't win games multiple ways. They just can't. And they're going to have to figure out how to do that because the good teams can. Texans are an all right team. When I say good teams, I'm talking about teams that make it to the conference championship. Teams that can figure stuff out. Texans aren't there. And it seems like they're closer to a intense fight in the division than they are getting there. But a lot can happen in an offseason. I was talking about this with Stoots. Like if you had a time machine and you could go back and you could redo every draft after the fact, you'd probably be able to put together an elite roster. So there's always going to be opportunity. It's just a matter of what Nick Caserio can do. What can D'Amico Ryans, what can Nick Caserio do? How are they going to attack it? I heard Caserio the other day on with McShay, and he was like, said something like, yeah, we have most of our offensive guys under contract. We really got to look at the defense. And I'm sitting there like, really? Is that the direction we're going? Now Nick's got a hell of a poker face, but that's the direction we're going and focus on the defense. If you want to just put together an elite defense, that's fine. You got to do something on offense because this ain't going to fly. And the ghost of Stefon Diggs is not going to cut it. There's a lot of cap crap they got to figure out. And I just not, it doesn't interest me like this Stefon Diggs situation. They have to figure it out. And they'll figure it out. The dead money, all that, like they'll have to figure that out. Either they're going to push the credit card back or they're going to do whatever. But I don't think that they should put themselves in a situation where they feel like they have to sign Stefon Diggs. For me, that's the worst option is the Stefon Diggs thing. I think that's the worst option for me. I don't understand why you would want to bring back Stefon Diggs coming off a torn ACL with the shelf life and all that. I don't understand it. Maybe they have to get creative, but just try to figure something else out. I know there's a lot of washed receivers out there that aren't what they once were that are getting thrown out. And Stefon Diggs naturally gets thrown in that mix. I'm just not in the camp of Stefon Diggs. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't seem like the ideal scenario. It doesn't. Alex says he likes Stefon Diggs. He's good at football. He just tore his ACL. He's 31 years old. He's not going to be making the money that he probably thinks he should make. He's fine at football. But you haven't seen him post ACL. It's the first time he's had to deal with this. I still think you have to, like, when you're looking at these older receivers, you still have to, obviously, you're still going to have to draft a wide receiver. But yeah, Diggs is all right. I just don't know that I want to bring him back. Figure something else out. It's also a new system for him. Not that he can't learn it. It's just a new system. I mean, I just, the other thing is, and I, like they keep asking Nico and they keep asking CJ. They keep asking them, hey, do you want to bring back Stefon Diggs? You think they're going to say no? Like there's no chance in hell they're going to say no to that. Like zero chance that they're going to say no. So obviously they're going to say, yeah, we would love to have Diggs back. They're not going to say no to that. That just doesn't make a lot of sense. Right guard or wide receiver in the first round. Give me a name of a right guard. Like, I mean, this is the draft stuff that, and I'm not picking on you, Jolie 713. But yeah, if you told me I can get an elite right guard, then sure. Like maybe I would entertain it in the first round. Like, who's the wide receiver you like? Because it's just not that simple in the draft. Like who were the guys that we're talking about? So I don't, it doesn't work like as a what you need. And that's what draft debating sometimes turns into. What do they need? If you told me right now, no matter what position you say on the draft, at the draft in the first round, no matter what position you say, it's guaranteed to be an elite player. And you told me that I could make the pick. It's a guaranteed elite player. Because that's the way that a lot of people think that this works. But let's just pretend in this imaginary world that you're guaranteed to get an elite player regardless of the position you pick. I'm taking either a wide receiver or an interior D lineman. If you're guaranteeing that it's elite. Because the wide receiver is going to be on a rookie contract for 4 years. It's going to be cheap. And right when CJ Stroud's contract is up, you have an elite wide receiver and you have Nico Collins. And that's an expensive ass position. So that's what I would like. And then an interior D lineman, you put him with the elite edge guys, then the Texans can be crazy good. Find me a right guard. Find me a system that knows how to overcome potential personnel issues. Figure that out. Mike asked for a Kenyon Green update. Like, what do you want to know about Kenyon Green? What does he got to do with it? Like, I'm being serious. Like, what do you want? What do you want to be updated about Kenyon Green? He stinks. Like, what do you want to know? You think he's like good all of a sudden? Like, what do you want to know? He's walking? Like, what update do you want? Like, if he's 100%, what does that mean? Does that, we don't need a guard now? What does a Kenyon Green update do for anybody? And I love you, Mike. You're in here a lot. And I very much appreciate you. But in all seriousness, like, what's the accomplishment of a Kenyon Green update? Stefon Diggs update? Oh, he's run, like, that would be beneficial. Maybe we can figure out how he's moving around. We can figure out what he's got left. All that. What do you want? What could you hear about Kenyon Green that would change what you think about him right now? Like, just type out the perfect Kenyon Green update that would just be like, hell yes. He's walking. He was practicing. What's the ideal update for that? Jerome says, don't draft an offensive lineman unless they're 6'5", 330. Dude, that was the craziest damn chart. I've seen, you're obviously reacting to the chart of the Philadelphia offensive line where it had like their average height and weight. I've seen like weight charts where it's like this offensive line averages this much weight, but the height is crazy on that offensive line. I mean, that is insane. I've seen like the offensive line averages 360. I think Arkansas had like that. High school, there was an offensive line called Trinity High School that was like 325, 330, something like that. But the height and weight of Philadelphia's offensive line is absolutely crazy. Yeah, I really want to know. I really want the ideal Kenyon Green update. Like it. Mike says Kenyon Green is his neighbor. Just checking. He don't talk to him. Go knock on his door. Go knock on his door. What do you mean he's your neighbor? And you're asking me like, what can we know? What can we know about Kenyon now? Really? I mean, he looks great. I mean, what could I possibly tell you about Kenyon Green that's just going to excite you? No more Shaq Mason builds. Man, you got to work on that build, brother. He came in out of shape. And I was surprised that wasn't brought up, and I was surprised it wasn't more frowned upon this year. And we brought it up throughout the year. Like, you could see he looked heavy. He's never, like, been the most physically, like, impressive, but it's really interesting to me that, like, whenever you think about a guy who everybody likes and the coaches gas up, and whether he stinks or not, he's going to be he's going to be on the field, and he's going to get his job back even when you don't get it. And he's going to be one of these guys that they mention and all that. Like, those are usually the guys, right, that are like offseason warriors, like Derek Stingley, Will Anderson, even Dameon Pierce. Like, Dameon Pierce is, ever since D'Amico's gotten here, he's been in shape. Like, I was surprised that someone who's kind of one of the coach's pets was that out of shape. I was really surprised by that. We're looking for Kenyon Green updates from you, Mike, being his neighbor. Yeah, you tell us about Kenyon Green, Mike. Go knock on the door. Go knock on the door and see what's up. Let us know about Kenyon Green. Let us know about him. Chase says, still can't believe they started him after how good they looked in the first playoff game. Yeah, like, the offensive line was never amazing, but the fact that Shaq Mason just came back and got his job was borderline insane. Borderline crazy. Jake Majors might be there at 200. Okay, we're talking Jake Majors now. Interesting. Other part of the Texans, and we got plenty of time during the offseason to get into it. There's the Deebo Samuel rumors. You down with Deebo Samuel or not? He's obviously not what he used to be. He's obviously had some drama in San Francisco. My goodness. A lot of whining. A little bit of a fall off. Looked a little big in New Orleans. It's going to be a cheap trade, though. Like, cost, I don't think should really factor in too much. They would probably give him away and have to take on some of the contract. They got better players right now, or players that they feel are going to be better. Ayuk, they just paid. They just took Pearsall in the first round. Jennings, better complete wide receiver. Deebo, it's not going to be a costly trade. But even with that, is it worth the cost? I think there's probably a certain level of motivation that he'll have. I don't know how D'Amico feels about him. It's kind of hard for me to imagine that D'Amico would be too thrilled about the way he handled himself in San Francisco. But I don't think it's an either-or situation. I think that there's a chance that they stockpile draft equity with this next draft, and they're more willing to trade back, even for like day 2, type of picks. But they're gonna if they're a competent front office, and I think they are, they're gonna explore adding wide receivers in multiple ways. It's not just gonna be a trade. It's not just gonna be a veteran. It's not just gonna be draft. So Deebo, intriguing. On the current state of this roster, he's your second best receiver and running back. I've said that. I believe that. But yeah, and I would take Deebo over Diggs too. Sam the Surreal says I would take Deebo and Kupp over Diggs. Diggs is my distant. I want to move on from that. But yeah, I'll just keep Mechie or Hutchinson. They're not good. They should be competing for roster spots next year. I don't know. After they're done, we'll see what happens. I'm not dismissing Hutchinson. He's got 2 years. He's a developmental guy back end. But why would you want Mechie and Hutchinson as like a top? Because if you're saying if you're saying you take them over Deebo or Kupp, you're saying them as like your top 3, top 4. I haven't seen anything to validate that. And it's not a large sample size, but it's not a small sample size. So I just don't know. Someone says Keenan Allen. Could Keenan Allen be like a cap casualty? Keenan Allen was their first choice last year. They tried to trade for Keenan Allen before they made the Diggs move. So they've obviously liked Keenan Allen before. Now, that was with a different offensive coordinator, and that was with Bobby Slowick. Does Nick Caley like him? Do they still like him? But the guys that are still there in the front office, although a different play caller, they liked Keenan Allen before. Could he be some sort of cap casualty? Don't know. Some might think he's a better option than Kupp. Who knows? Up and down in Chicago, made a few plays, but they've got young receivers as well. Don't know what they were doing. They definitely need some explosiveness, though. Like all the receivers that we've just mentioned, kind of slow. Just a little bit. Someone says Mechie couldn't hold Deebo's shoestrings. Yeah, Mechie. We got to stop the Mechie and Hutchinson thing. We got to stop it. Like, what are we doing? Like, why are we even mentioning John Mechie and Hutchinson? Did y'all watch last year? Did y'all watch the year before when they were called upon? And yeah, they're young players. We see young players step up all the time. Like there's barely a flash. Like Hutchinson catches one pass and it's like, oh yeah, look, see, opportunity. Come on. There's been times where he was supposed to be your number 2 guy. He's non-existent. You can blame it on the O-line. He's also not getting open. Mechie, come on. I like great story, but damn. I mean, the drops, the inconsistency. There's really not much versatility there. There's nothing that really brings it. Why would that be? They're here as long as their rookie contracts last. I would disagree with that. You might be able to get someone off the street that's more valuable than Mechie. Undrafted free agent. Those rookie contracts mean nothing. You think guys go through their rookie contract 4 years? This is a bleeper get off the pot year for Mech. And I thought last year was. Let's give Mechie another chance. Why? Maybe there's sarcasm there. I don't know. If we link CJ and Ibuka up, that wouldn't be terrible. I don't know where we're going with Ibuka. And again, we'll be at the combine, myself and Cody Stoots, in 2 weeks. I don't know where we're going there. I've seen him ranked 11th. I've seen him ranked 35th. And that's not just like like I don't know where we're going with Ibuka, where this is going. There might be a chance. There's no chance in hell he's there at 25. There might be a chance he goes to 25, and all of a sudden we're wondering. We got to see these measurables. And then we got to argue our asses off when it comes to receiver, because we are. That's coming. We're going to argue like a mofo about wide receivers. That is the most polarizing position. We all watch it. But the Ibuka thing is fascinating to me. Because it is all over the place with that evaluation. It is all over the place. That could go a number of ways. Playful says this team is never getting there. Blow it up. Blow what up? What are they going to blow up? You want to trade CJ? You want to trade Nico? Like, who do you want to trade? I agree. Maybe blow up the offensive line. I'm okay with that. Wide receivers, not named Nico Collins. I'm okay with that. What else do you want to blow up? What else do you want to blow up? Jerome says if he runs JSN 40, I'd take him. He ain't run no JSN. Although JSN's game speed's way faster than his 40 speed, but that ain't going down. That ain't going down. Low key, can we talk about running back depth? We don't have to low key talk about that with me. I want running back depth badly. That's why I'm okay to trading back at 25 and getting some of these backs. And I said backs. I would draft 2. Bring in 2, figure it out. The deep-ass running back class. Deep-ass running back class. Let's get Joe Mixon some help. Let's get a guy who can catch. Jaden Blue, don't threaten me with a good time. Left Texas pretty early, never utilized. Day 3, there. Get you another guy that you think is a workhorse on day 2. Stack it up. Stack it up. Don't threaten me with running backs. I am all about that. Make that happen. Make that happen. There's a lot of stuff that they need to figure out. But those are the Deebo rumors. We're going to argue like a mofo about wide receivers this draft. That's going to be, I can't wait. I can't wait to embrace the debate. And Abuka is going to be front and center. Y'all know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. It is going to be an Abuka party. There's going to be, like if he gets drafted, There's going to be a portion, like if he goes like 20, 25, and then there's going to be the people that are like, yes. Can't wait for the draft arguments. It'll be fun. It's a different time though. Free agency will be interesting how they shape up. I don't anticipate them being heavy spenders. You never know though. You never know. Cap situation, that can be tweaked here, there. Credit card, debt, just push it back. Jaden Blue as a gadget guy could be so fun. He might be your second best back and receiver while we're talking. He was never quite maximized as a receiver. Now, I mean, he had the catch against A&M that I don't think too many wide receivers make. Clemson, he had the 2 50-plus yard runs, and then he had the 2 touchdowns against Ohio State on the wheel routes. You make a case. I don't know. He might be your second best back and wide receiver right now, too. He might be a sneaky day 3 guy, though. Or day 2. Like, the production does not warrant that, but depending what he runs, I don't know his 40 time. I'm assuming he's pretty effing fast. I know people are already kind of linking. You know how there's always like that prospect where it's like, oh, this guy belongs with this coach. It feels like there's like some momentum where people think that Sean Payton is going to be the biggest Jaden Blue gadget guy. He said something on Radio Row about needing kind of that type of back that can catch. And I think Matt Miller brought it up, and then a lot of people are bringing it up. But I think he is going to be a productive NFL player, whether it's just special teams, whether it's being utilized in the pass game. I think there's some unrealized potential there. Untapped potential. I don't think Genty's fallen. I don't think he falls past Dallas, to be honest with you. They kind of ignored the running back market last year, and then they witnessed a guy who lives in Dallas and Derrick Henry doing what he did with Baltimore. And then a guy who was in the division went to the other division rival, and he just won a Super Bowl in Saquon Barkley. So I would not dismiss the possibility of him going at 12. So I wouldn't dismiss that. Matthew Golden is nice. He's another intriguing guy that people are talking about at 25. I don't know. I mean, he's all right. It's hard to judge those players based on production. There's a lot of intriguing Texas guys. So we'll see how that goes. Another veteran. It is the Locker Room #1 source for Texans digital content. Another veteran that is very familiar around here. DeAndre Hopkins. He made his Super Bowl appearance yesterday. Kind of had the internet going nuts around here. Showed up in my For You section because I guess Cal McNair and Hannah McNair were on the sidelines. And DeAndre Hopkins was right there with the McNair boys. And you can see Nuke and the McNairs. Look at that. He's giving him the gloves. Please sign me to a 1-year contract. It's hard. Please bring me home. Come on, please. Bring me home. I promise I'm going to tweet out pictures of myself in Houston, and I'm going to try to get people excited. Bring me home. DeAndre Hopkins. How would that entice you? There's no draft equity. It's probably a cheapish deal, less than 10 mil, maybe closer to 5 than 10, to be honest with you. How do we feel about DeAndre Hopkins, like as a cheap veteran option? I'm good on that. I don't like the way it ended. I don't like the way it went down. And I really thought this was shameful. DeAndre Hopkins had a really bad night yesterday. When Kansas City was like dazed, down 24-0, trying to get some points at the end of the half and then get the ball back, Mahomes made one of his best plays of the game. Threw the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. Midfield, probably would have had 15, 20 yards to run. Who knows what could have happened. DeAndre tripped over his shoelace, dropped the ball, and the Chiefs ended up getting roughed up. Now, he did end up putting on the janitor outfit, going out there and getting him some mop-up duty. He had a touchdown, 2-point conversion. But the play that the opportunity when he had an opportunity to make a big play that would have maybe given Kansas City a little bit of hope, like an ounce of momentum, he wet the bed. Keep that football, though. That's a nice football to have. You've been through a lot. You deserve to play in a Super Bowl. You can say you scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So props to him. But it was a rough performance. Then we had this after the game from DeAndre Hopkins. And this was even worse than what happened in the game. Here's DeAndre Hopkins, courtesy of the NFL on Fox.
You know, I saw a lot of things in the media about the refs, but obviously what y'all gonna say now about the refs and us when there was a lot of touchy calls? Are y'all gonna report that? Are y'all gonna talk about the refs now?
What? I mean, there was bad calls on both sides early. But what was the touchy calls? You'll get your ass whooped. Should have lost by 30. Y'all had some mop-up duty. You were part of it. He was on the cleanup crew yesterday. DeAndre Hopkins. And he's talking about the refs. You know it's sad because he wasn't the only one who did it. But you know it's sad whenever the calls aren't just 100% one-sided and the refs it kind of looks and resembles like a typical NFL game and there's complaining. You know that things were pretty bad. I hate seeing DeAndre Hopkins go out like that, man. I hate that. That's bad. And the worst part about it is, you know, Nuke's lucky to be on the Chiefs. So let's just be serious. Like, that was just basically like a last second type of thing. And it was kind of desperate. Like, really, you know, like when someone shows up to the party and it was kind of a courtesy invite and they're not like the main attraction and they go dirty up the restroom. It's kind of like, why did I invite this guy? Like the Chiefs last offseason. So they had Rashee Rice. He had the incident. They signed Hollywood. They signed Juju. They drafted Xavier Worthy. Rice tears his ACL. Hollywood Brown gets hurt. And then they're like, let's go trade pennies for DeAndre Hopkins. and he shows up, and in the Super Bowl, he drops the pass at the 50-yard line, and it doesn't work out for him, and it doesn't go well. You didn't hear Travis Kelce talk about the refs. You didn't hear Patrick Mahomes talk about the refs because it's stupid. And it's obvious that it wasn't like that it was a close game and they got jobbed. There were a couple calls here and there, but it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't anything close to what we saw from the Chiefs against the Texans or the Bills. But the guys who actually have some sweat equity in this dynasty, the Mahomeses, the Tunnies, the Kelce's, and I thought Kelce's media availability was great. The Andy Reids, they don't say anything. And then DeAndre Hopkins, who's lucky to be there, and when he has a chance to kind of like make a play that actually matters and could maybe give them amounts of momentum, he wets the bet, and he goes up there and says that. That's just crazy to me. That's a rough night for Nuke. I'm glad he got his touchdown. He'll always be a Houston legend. That trade always sucked. They didn't get the appropriate equity for that. I think that's obvious. Maybe there'll be a time where DeAndre Hopkins, like they honor him and put him up there next to some of the greats, possibly. Don't know. But man, that went out bad. That was a rough night for Nuke. And as far as bringing DeAndre Hopkins back, I'm out on that. I know there's going to be a lot of tweets. There's going to be, and I'm sure he's going to add some fuel to the fire. He'll be here in the offseason. He might still live here. Don't know. But I'm off on that. I'm off on that. No, thank you. We don't need that. You can bring in a veteran that's going to probably produce at a similar level, and it's going to be a little less dramatic than what we saw with Nuke. No, thank you. I'm good on that. No, thank you. Someone says D-Hop has won me so many weeks in fantasy. What year? When was that? This might be a joke from Frank. It's always dangerous to read those. Went to the junkyard today to get a part, to find a part, and found the number 10 Pacheco jersey and threw it in a water puddle. Ha ha, F them Chiefs. Who bought a Pacheco jersey? Who did that? How does this work, Fifth Ward? I'm going to have to put you in timeout for this one, unless you can explain this. Trade for Wilson and draft Ibuka. So you think you could trade for Garrett Wilson and have your first-round pick and draft Ibuka? How's that work? What do you think the cost is for Garrett Wilson? One more talented young receivers in the NFL. What's the cost? And then draft Ibuka? Yeah, I gotta put you in timeout. 5 minutes, man. 5-minute timeout. Nose in the corner. That's crazy. That's crazy. Can't be doing all that. That's bad. But shout out to Nuke Hopkins. That's a no for me, dog. That's a no for me, dog. I'd give up number 25 for Wilson. I probably would too. I would too. Might cost more than that though. Especially since they're moving on from Aaron Rodgers. I think that's probably like yesterday. By the way, are the Jets assholes? Was that an asshole move yesterday? To put the Aaron Rodgers stuff out there on Super Bowl Sunday. Glazer comes on, he's doing his like whole dramatic stuff. And he says, by the way, I got some news for you. And I'm like, okay, where is this going? The Jets are giving up on Aaron Rodgers. They've informed him. And I'm like, they trying to steal the news cycle? Because they kind of did. They kind of did. I mean, that Super Bowl buildup, while I enjoy like watching all the production and everything that goes into it for like 8 hours, I had it on Fox for 8 hours. They kind of took the news cycle. But what do you think Garrett Wilson said when he heard that? You think he was sad? Oh, God. No. And Devontae Adams might be another name that's on the market. Maybe him and Aaron Rodgers can go play together in Tennessee. Who knows? That's kind of a jackass move, though, if you ask me, by the Jets. Kind of a jackass move. Not a big fan. If we trade back from 25, what will we get? Don't know. It would depend on the trade. Maybe someone falls in love with Jackson Dart. Maybe he's there at 25. Maybe someone really needs something. Maybe someone wants to trade up because they like someone a lot and they want to hop the other teams and they want to get the player option. Who knows? Devontae Adams. I mean, Devontae Adams is a better option than Diggs for me. I think he's a better version of Diggs. I just don't know about these guys, man. Like, I don't know that the Texans, like, if you're going to tolerate a diva receiver, I just want him to be really, really, really good. Like, I want him to be really, really, really good. Like, there's a time to do it. Like, this year, like, and I know Diggs, like, they did everything they could to, like, combat the diva thing. And he was good in the locker room, and they like him and all that type of stuff. So I'm not saying that. But, I mean, he does have a strong personality. He's coming off a torn ACL. We saw Devontae Adams. Like, if you watch that Netflix, like, receiver thing, like, he's crying the whole time with the Raiders. Like, even when they're winning, he forces his way out. And then he goes to the Jets. And it's like he's going to the Jets, and him and Aaron Rodgers are acting like they're going to turn back the clock. And it's like, really? There's a guy named Garrett Wilson there who's pretty effing good, pretty effing solid. He was regarded as one of the better young players in the league before Aaron Rodgers hijacked that organization. And you're just going to not push him to the side, but you're going to have Aaron Rodgers and Garrett and Devontae Adams like turning back the clock and reminiscing about the old days and doing all that corny stuff while Garrett Wilson's just supposed to be like some sort of number 2 or some sort of sidekick. Like, I just don't know about bringing in like a Devontae Adams or a Stefon Diggs, or even like, I think it's a counter for Deebo Samuel. Like, if you told me these guys were in their prime, yeah, maybe it's worth it. If you told me the Texans were like a receiver away, yeah, maybe it's worth it. But I just have a hard time with these guys. It's not just diminishing skills. And DeAndre Hopkins, what happened yesterday and all that, like it's just kind of, it's a massive presence. Like, it's not a distraction. Nobody's ever questioned. Now, I know that Bill O'Brien he thought that DeAndre Hopkins' practice habits sucked. He said it to me. He said, yeah, and everybody talks about DeAndre Hopkins' practice habits. I never said anything like that. Yeah, they did suck, though. So now you're going to bring that in? If it's Nuke in his prime, sure. But if you're going to do that and you're going to bring in a strong personality wide receiver, I just want him to be really, really good. Now, the flip side of that and the counter is oh, God. The flip side of that and the counter is that your wide receiver room is terrible and beggars can't be choosers. So I would understand that. That's the counter of that. Someone in the chat trying to be funny. Christian asks if I'm going to have a draft party. Yeah, probably. Yeah, and I've had some crazy draft takes, but he also said that Diggs said he'd be back on the drive. I don't know if y'all saw this, but there's like a station that is like the flagship of the Texans. They had a fake Stefon Diggs on. So this is kind of the reference he's talking about in the chat. So you can see this guy in the background. Clearly not Stefon Diggs. He's jacked. And
in a row, you start questioning.
They bring him up.
Which one are they, right?
You can see the boss. Boss right there. He thinks he cooked. Man, I just booked Stefon Diggs in the middle of a segment. Look at him. He's like, yeah, I'm cooking. Look at that. Look how happy he is.
What are they, right?
And then
you got good and comfortable with it. It's real comfortable.
This Diggs interview. Look at this guy.
That's really all I gotta say about it, man. I'm not gonna say too much, man. You know,
this interview goes 4 minutes with Stefon Diggs, and then finally,
because there ain't no doubt.
Because that ain't you ain't it's gonna come
then we get
together.
to this.
We're coming together. What would I say? As far as injury stuff, he just gotta, stay to it.
Can I ask you a question?
Fake Diggs.
Yes, sir.
Are you punking us? Cause
There ain't no doubt.
you ain't Stefon Diggs.
I'm not Stefon Diggs. Who thought I was Stefon Diggs?
I don't. Am I tripping?
No, you ain't. Not one bit.
Okay.
I've been sitting here thinking
I
myself.
thought about it when you sat down, man. Who are you?
Say it one
I
more
said,
time.
who are you?
Well, I'm CJ Taylor. I'm a core and movement specialist. I work with a lot of the players.
Well, hey, I appreciate you getting it.
For sure. I had to run with it. Bro came and got me.
I got you.
Bro came and got him, and he had to run with it. Yeah. If Stefon Diggs looks like that, then I'll take him. If Stefon Diggs is that jacked, if coming off the injury, Stefon Diggs is that jacked, I'll take him. I will take Stefon Diggs if he's that jacked. We will take him. If that's the case. Y'all are stupid for bringing that up. I haven't even... I don't think the guy was impersonating. In fairness, it's CJ Taylor. I guess he's a core guy. I think the guy, boss man, just went up to him and called him that. Amari Cooper. I mean, we're having the same conversation, and Amari Cooper can't stay healthy for anything. The Kupp missed games number, I think, is misleading, especially if we go to 2022, because Stafford didn't even play 10 games that year and they kind of shut him down. But Amari Cooper just cannot stay healthy. Laro says, stick it to 6'10" every time is Landry's motto. Every time. It's been twice. One time when they had a survey, and the other time when they had a fake Stefon Diggs. That's it. I like those guys. Shout out to those dudes. There ain't nothing there. Ain't no motto. You're telling me that's a me thing? That a Stefon Diggs interview goes for 5 minutes? A fake Stefon Diggs? That's my fault? No. And I thought it was hilarious. That was it. I got to hit it, I guess. Do I have to? Should I? I wasn't going to go there. Do I got to hit it? Do I have to hit it? For that mix-up, is the race card warranted, yes or no, chat? Yes or no? Is it warranted or not? It's a question I have. A lot of brothers on the chat saying yes.
Race car.
Yeah. I think that one was earned. Shout out to Clint and Ron. Like both those guys. Talk to them. Kind of give them a hard time joking about that. But yeah, they did their thing. That's a tough spot to be in. Like, in all seriousness, it's hard, like in Radio Row, even when you know a guest is coming, to not miss any of your rhythm because people are listening in their car. They're not watching. So you kind of got to bounce that. So that's a tough spot to be in. And when someone brings a guest to you and says, this is Stefon Diggs in the middle of a segment, not even during a commercial break, it's tough, man. Because you trust the people to get the job done. They got to put them on the headset. They got to do all that. So, and that's the hard thing, is they're going to be the ones that get the crap. And I'm pro relating to what the guys are doing. So as a group, it's embarrassing, but they weren't the ones who said, hey, come sit down. They were doing a segment. And then, I mean, there was really no good scenario there. Like, either they immediately after the headset goes, hey, that's not Stefon Diggs. Either maybe they think that the boss is playing a joke on them. Like, it's a tough spot to be in. So in all seriousness, like, the two times that I've even really brought it up, in direction, I thought that the focus group was disrespectful to the talent that they did in the middle of a very, very bad football season for them. And then I thought that kind of put them in a bad light. I thought it was just kind of funny. So, yeah, kind of wild. Roberto, they sent a notification. No, they didn't. You're lying. You're lying. They sent out a notification for it too? Tell me you're joking. Come on. See, even Laro, the biggest hater, is admitting, yeah, it ain't. I didn't go out of my way. You would be surprised who texted me about it, but like, I'll keep that to myself. But yeah, I don't. I'm not list. I list the Sean and Seth from 6 to 10. That's it. That's it. But I don't have anything against any of them. But damn, they sent out a notification for that too. Good Lord. Nah, come on. Come on. Y'all are kidding. Come on. They sent a notification too. All right. On that note, receiver, veteran, rookie. We'll have plenty of time to talk about this. We'll have plenty of time to argue about this. Goodness gracious. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. No notifications needed. And I appreciate y'all for everything you do. And let's enjoy this offseason, which is upon us.
Is what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.